Hey everyone, I'm Jessica, and I am here to talk about an awesome solo game experience that I finally got off my shelf after many years for no apparent reason. And what I am talking about today is Detective City of Angels. And this is a mystery type game where you are solving cases that take place kind of in 1940s LA, around Hollywood and everything, back in that sort of crime noir setting. So I played this when it first came out in 2019, did the tutorial case, and promptly put it on the shelf. As I'm telling myself, maybe I just wanted to go another decade before actually solving these cases. I don't know. Anyway, I finally got it to the table, and this is an interesting game in that it has different modes that you can play through that kind of are tailored to what you want out of the experience. So I'm playing through Sleuth mode, which works for solo, and with this one, what you do for a case, I should be clear up front too, there are no spoilers here. I am going through general information, kind of going through the tutorial case a little bit, but not to the point that it would spoil it, so everything here should be spoiler free. So just to show you how that sleuth mode works, for instance, the first case is called Blood on the Pier. And cases are awesome like this because they're contained in these boxes. There's not a lot of components. A lot of what you're doing is kind of moving around this really big board and sort of traveling around, searching locations, questioning suspects, and figuring out what is going on. So the main way that you're going to do this is questioning those suspects. So you'll have cards that come out that kind of have either a person, a piece of evidence, something that is kind of tied specifically to that card. And then you can go through and ask suspects about this piece of information. The really neat part about this, though, is you don't know if you're getting the truth. So suspects can lie. So what you can do is when you go through, and for instance, again, there's no spoilers here, this is just a part of the sleuth mode. This is how you would actually go into the sleuth mode book. It kind of gives you a paragraph number based on who you are questioning and what piece of evidence or which card you're questioning them against. So for instance, if I wanted to question D. DiCaprio about card E, you can just follow it down there, and if I can read properly, what is that, 837? And that would be the one that we would look up. Again, I'm not going to actually read it, but this is the sleuth casebook. We're just going to list, there's all different paragraphs in here. I don't want to go into depth with what those look like because, again, no spoilers. But for instance, you'll get a response. That person may tell you something like, oh yeah, if you're asking about another person, oh yeah, they usually hang out over at this location. So then you have to make the decision, are they telling the truth or do you think they're lying? Because you can actually challenge them on what they tell you. And what you do with that is then there's another paragraph you'll follow if you challenge them. If you were incorrect, if they were telling the truth, you will then take some stress. So you start off with 3 of these in sleuth mode. To take stress, you flip it over. And if you get 3 of these, you're going to lose a day on the investigation because there are usually 12 days in an investigation and 4 actions every day, which you're going to be using again, as I said, kind of moving around, questioning, searching things. So taking stress is bad. But if you are fortunate enough, or if you have enough information to kind of understand that suspect is lying, they can't be telling the truth, you will then gain leverage over them. And leverage is pretty cool because it's marked with these fancy little hat tokens I don't know if that'll come up on the screen. But then you gain leverage with that suspect. So you'll put that out. And what leverage does is that when you ask a question, before you read the response, you can say, I'm using leverage, so I'm automatically going to get the best response. So rather than having to challenge, you will read whatever that first paragraph is, and then immediately go to the second paragraph. And regardless of whether it was the truth or a lie, you'll get the full piece of information. And that's pretty cool when you're like, I really need to know about this, but I'm not sure if I can, decipher if there's going to be a lie or the truth from this. That is really cool. I have enjoyed all the cases. I finally played through all of the base game cases, and there are 9 of them, if I can count correctly. And they go from different difficulty levels. So you'll start off with the gumshoe ones, which are pretty easy. But they are also good cases. These are not, when I say they're easy to solve, they are still good cases. You're still going to be going down these different paths. you're still going to be wondering who did it up until a certain point. And there's a couple of plot twists in there. I was surprised by a few, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Not all of them are murder mysteries. The majority are. And this, again, does take place in sort of the gritty crime noir 1940s. So these are not cozy mysteries, but they're also not, how would I describe it? They're not gruesome. The descriptions you're going to see, the cards and the images, it's not over the top, which I appreciate, but know that the subject matter is mature. You're going to come across different themes like that. There's going to be a little bit of language going on. But again, I understand that. That's in the setting, and it works because I think the cases are really well done. Most of them I have really enjoyed. A couple I was like, all right. There is one case that has what is supposed to be a major, sort of a major plot twist, I would say, and I picked up on it from the case briefing, so it was not a surprise to me. So that case was a little bit of a letdown because I wanted something more to happen, and I figured it out early on. In terms of that case book, you will have briefings and what's in here. Again, no spoilers. This is what you get for every case. There's going to be information and a briefing about what's going on. There might be special rules. It'll kind of tell you what you need to solve. And then also what's nice about this sleuth mode is that when you figure out your solution, you're going to use this chart on the back of the sleuth casebook. And basically you're just adding up to get a paragraph number, I should say, based on your suspect, weapon, and motive. So you'll add that together and then look it up, and you will determine if you got it correct or not. Which is kind of nice because if you don't spoil it for yourself. You could potentially keep going or just say, I didn't get it right. I like to picture myself as sort of a young Columbo in this game. There's miniatures for different detectives. I always use this one kind of facing away because that looks like a rumpled trench coat. Let's see if it'll actually, that could be Columbo in the 40s. Just one more thing. So I have really enjoyed this. I think the other thing to note too is it does come with a pad that looks like this for keeping track again of all that, the matrix that I was talking about, where you're going to be questioning suspects about specific pieces of evidence. Note though that this is very tiny. If you have small handwriting, which I do, it does fit, but I can understand how that may not be the best solution. But I can see sort of, marking off if you've questioned a suspect about something and taking notes elsewhere. It works. I don't think that's a big detractor from what the game experience actually offers. Again, to take a look at sort of what you're going to get inside a case, we'll just take a quick look. The things you'll use in sleuth mode, you're going to have a bunch of cards, and these, it differs by case what you're going to have. As you play though, you will see there's a reveal icon because these will start face down on the board. And as you go through the case briefing, all of the ones that should be revealed will be revealed. And then other ones that you need to find during the case won't have that. So you're going to have to figure out how to actually uncover evidence, which you don't know what it could be. Another suspect, it could be a clue, it could be a red herring. Nobody knows. And then also you are going to have standees per case who are going to look like this. They are really nicely illustrated, kind of bring the whole world to life. When you first start the game, you'll actually have a punch board of all standees, so you don't know which ones go with which case until you actually start, which is neat because you don't necessarily, put the faces to the case yet. This is actually for an expansion, but just to give you an idea of what that looks like, this is an expansion punch board, so I don't know which person goes with which case yet, which again makes it a little interesting in that you're not picking a case and then knowing exactly off the, from the start who is going to be involved. You might have to uncover some of those as you go through it. So I have really been enjoying this solo. I can be picky with the mystery games that I enjoy, sometimes that are hit or a miss, and sometimes I don't know exactly what I'm looking for. But when I kind of started off with this, when I said, what do I want out of a mystery game? I want interesting cases. I want to have those cool aha moments where I sort of track something down or put together some pieces that didn't make sense and now, oh, they do with this piece of information. They don't have to be amazing cases. I'm not looking for, the greatest murder mystery ever written in this format. But I like finding cases where I feel like I'm actually tracking things down. I don't like easy cases where I basically am just given a few pieces of information and it's like, okay, well, there's the solution. Even the easy cases in this game, including the tutorial, you might find a clue or a piece of evidence. And for instance, I don't even know if it's in the tutorial, but there's a few instances where you may search a location or search a suspect and you'll come up with some item or something, and that doesn't necessarily point to that location or person. You kind of have to piece together the clues and the other evidence, put it all together and actually make it make sense. So I have really enjoyed these. They also have really nice artwork for those cases, so it really kind of sets you up for being in this world. Probably my favorite ones from the base game, just looking at my little collection off to the side. I think one of the best ones is Bloody Christmas. I won't say any more except to say that was a really great case. I already showed it, but Heist to Nowhere is also another really interesting one. I liked that one a lot. I think the only downside with playing these solo is that you play it once and you're done. Unless you're me, potentially, because I did go through this and I said, yeah, I played the tutorial back in 5 or 6 years ago. So maybe, that's going to be spoiled. I shouldn't play it, but let me get back into the system. And I did not remember anything. So that was like a whole new case. So I was like, okay, great. Maybe I could play these again, potentially. But another reason why I think this works really well for me personally is that I like playing solo mysteries, solving them on my own, but then there's these other game modes that are included. So there's classic, and then there is the chisel mode. And what that is one player. This is for a group, so I know, it's not solo. But there is another way to play this with a group where one player is the chisel, and what that person does is they sort of act as a game master or manage a lot of the components. They are the ones that are sort of deciding what clues and like how suspects are responding to questions, which is pretty neat. So I have the chance to play the chisel now with these cases, so I don't have to solve them again, but I can now play that with a group who either wants to play competitively against each other, trying to figure out who is going to solve it first, or cooperatively, which is usually how my family plays mysteries, and they will all work together to try to solve the case while I'm trying to throw them off and give them the wrong information and lie about anything I can. So that, again, is a really neat way to actually kind of extend the product. Just for solo, I still thought that there was a lot in this. These cases were fun. I think a lot of people may compare it to Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, which I played as well. Actually, if I compare it to that, I'm trying to think how I do think I like Detective City of Angels more than Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. I think it also comes into the playtime comparison. I know with Sherlock Holmes, those cases, how I played that was I tracked down every single lead. I wanted to read every paragraph. I wanted to take every note that I possibly could. So those took me hours for each case. In Detective, I am averaging probably between, excluding the tutorial case, which was like 30 minutes, it's probably around 40 to 50 minutes per case. And that's with seeing a lot of stuff. Because you are limited by time, you're not going to be able to question every suspect on every piece of evidence, so you won't see everything unless you want to read it at the end. But I feel like that's okay. I'm not missing out on anything because I know which questions I want to ask. Like there's certain times when I'm like, I don't need to ask this suspect about this because they're just going to say, I don't know. And that's a wasted action right there. Got to solve this case. And thinking about, again, versus Consulting Detective, I think Consulting Detective, those cases, for me at least, were very convoluted sometimes. I did not get them all correct. Sometimes I had absolutely no clue, and the way that it sort of pieced together, I was like, really? No. That How? How does that lead you to this? How does that even go together? Here, I think there were a couple of instances where I was like, that's a little bit of a stretch, but not to the point that I was like, that's just really wrong. Also, I did get all the answers. My solutions were correct. One time I added up incorrectly and I thought I had it wrong, and I'm like, no, I am certain that is correct. Forgot to carry the 1. It's fine. And then I also had a couple cases where I got that last piece of information, that last clue on the last day with just a couple of actions left, which was really exciting because I thought I had hit a dead end, that I had lost, and then I thought, let me try this one thing that I think is a little bit of a wild guess, and it turned out, there we go. I found this crucial piece of evidence, and now I have tied the case together. So that was cool. I felt like they were actually solvable in solo. I know another thing with playing mystery games, if you play solo, it can be a little bit harder than when you're in a group, because in a group you're going to have other players that have ideas and you can kind of, work with each other to try to figure these things out. When you're just playing solo, it's just you, which I like, and that's why I like to do these solo. But I also like having cases that don't feel so hard to solve that I can't do it on my own. There were a couple things that I was like, I gotta think about this for a little bit, but I got it. And that includes the extremely difficult cases, which were also fun. So that again is Detective City of Angels, which I have been enjoying. I also have all of the expansion content that has just been sitting around, just like the base game. So I'm going to be moving through those cases, playing those, and having a great time because this system is working so nicely, and I'm having a wonderful time solving cases, and again, pretending that I am a young Columbo. So far, I've solved every case, so I guess I'm in character. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you get some great solo games to your table soon. Bye!